Welcome to We're People First, the Jeff Moyer Show. Here's Christy Moyer.
Well, hello, everybody. We are so glad you're with us today. We have a great show lined up for you. Before we embark on that, I'll just give you a short description. We're in Jeff's recording studio. The back wall has all of his gear back there to record. You see the piano, you see his didgeridoos that you'll meet later, and his guitar, and of course me. And now we're going to bring on the talent. Here's my wonderful musician husband, Jeff.
All right. One day we'll be able to afford 2 chairs. I'm looking forward. It is such a joy to be here again and to know that thousands of people are tuning into this show in real time and after the fact through the magic of YouTube. Today we really have a diverse show lined up for you, but I want to begin to talk about what Dr. King referred to as the beloved community. You know, that was Dr. King's idea about when all of us come together, particularly living together, when housing is open to everybody, when we live in integrated communities where all diversity is welcomed. And during the 504 demonstration 44 years ago right now, that was achieved because people with many different disabilities, all races were represented, and we represented a beloved community who lived together in extremely difficult circumstances, really living together in 2 offices, Health, Education, and Welfare, and the Office of Civil Rights on the 4th floor of the Federal Building in San Francisco. To think about each other as human beings, to reach across the divide of our differences, is difficult. It's difficult for anyone, and there is no such thing really as the disability community. There are pockets of people, typically organized around specific disabilities. During the 504 demonstration, we became a community that thought about each other's needs, that reached beyond the divide that separated us. And that is the goal of this show, is to talk about, share, and model the beloved community for all of us. And the next section, I'm going to talk about 3 people who were absolutely critical to the 504 demonstration, one of whom gave his life.
Disability rights history.
If you...
Wait. Okay.
If you look up Jack Duncan, there are a lot of Jack Duncans in Google or in Wikipedia. But look for the Jack Duncan that was the American lawyer and bureaucrat. This is a man who grew up, he had polio as a young boy, and he grew up with one leg shorter than the other, with a severe limp. He became an attorney, he was a gentleman from the South, and he wrote the major disability rights legislation prior to the ADA.
So, Jeff, how did you know Jack Duncan?
You know what? Pardon me, Christy, for not talking to you. Here I am talking to
No, you're fine.
This great unknown. Jack Duncan happened to be one of the faculty at my master's program in rehab administration at the University of San Francisco.
So you had the privilege of being in his class?
Yes, in his very class. And he talked about,
great.
I mentioned on the last show how he was given the responsibility to write something that mirrored, the Civil Rights Act for people with disabilities. And he did that in stages, including the Fair Housing Act amendments, which I used in order to get my brother a home in my community.
So did you tell me at one point he actually took the class to the demonstration?
I took the class to the demonstration.
You took the class to the demonstration.
I did, and he was part of the class. He, of course, was our instructor, but there he was in the halls with the demonstrators, talking to the people that were working to get the regulations signed into law that would give life and breath to his law.
Wow.
You know, the reason that 504 was so important, honey, is that Jimmy Carter at Warm Springs, Georgia, at the site of Franklin Roosevelt's Polio Rehabilitation Center, made the promise that if elected, he would sign the regulations for 504 as then drafted, because they were so controversial with school districts, universities, and hospitals. The lobby was so strong against that 36-word simple promise.
And it was mainly a money issue, isn't that correct? It was a money
issue, absolutely right. So when he became president, I was on the board of the American Coalition of Citizens with Disabilities, and we had a friend inside the administration, and he let us know that the plan was to change the regulations to be separate but equal.
You did mention that last time,
I mean,
right.
that's so wrong. Mm-hmm. So there's an urgency in the music. I took spirituals and civil rights songs and rewrote them for the demonstration, because music has always been a part of social change. In fact, the other person I wanted to mention to talk about a bit more was Mary Jane Owen, who I think I mentioned at the last episode.
You did briefly.
She was the daughter of two activist Methodist ministers, and she remembered walking around the congregation's sanctuary singing abolitionist songs from before the Civil War. She became a civil rights activist as a teenager and would sit with a fire hose in Los Angeles.
I remember you telling
Selma.
me. Yes.
I'm sorry, I probably talked about this. I think I didn't.
Yeah, I think you did mention that last time. Yeah.
But here is what I want to talk about today with her, is that yesterday we learned that Alexei Navalny has just entered a 24-day hunger strike, a remarkable accomplishment, as nonviolent civil disobedience against Vladimir Putin's violence against he and Russia in general.
Right.
Mary Jane Owen did the same thing.
She went on a hunger strike?
24-day hunger strike, just exactly the same number of days as Navalny.
Wow.
And when the regulations were signed, she broke the hunger strike. But that, another tactic of civil disobedience that Martin Luther King taught us, that Byron Rustin, the man that planned the March on Washington with Abe Randolph, I can't think of his name, but another civil rights leader, the head of the Pullman Porters, who had learned what they knew from the teachings of Gandhi. Gandhi modeled after a man named Leo Tolstoy, known as the great novelist.
War and Peace?
Yes. Yeah, and he became a Christian and took his faith seriously and developed nonviolent disobedience against war, against the war machine in Russia. So these things come to us, you know, the old hackneyed expression, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
That's where we are today.
I see.
That's why I want to celebrate 504. And I'm going to sing a song, and then I'll talk about Stephen Klein. Listen to the urgency in this music, because this was our one chance to begin the process of getting civil rights for the many diverse people who live with
again,
disabilities.
This is year of 1977?
1977, right. And it was a couple weeks into the demonstration, and I thought, we need some new music, some more music to get. And Mary Jane Owen would take the songs that I would bring in, learn them, and teach them when I wasn't there.
Wow.
Secretary Joseph Califano was the Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. The civil rights regulations were under his rubric. Secretary Califano, across this great and mighty land. You made a promise, Mr. President, now the battle is in our hands. And we demand the rights of Section 504, 504, 504. We demand the rights of Section 504, and we won't go till we've won. Up to the walls of the White House with Jimmy's promise to our land. We're not going till you sign them. Now our civil rights are in our hands. And we demand the rights of Section 504. Well, now every day we just get stronger with the support of the community. Secretary Califano, you better think about history.
Sign the regulation.
Sign the regulations. They are our civil rights. We stayed here many days so far, and we've stayed here many nights. We demand the rights of Section 504, 504, 504. We demand the rights of Section 504, and we won't go till we've won. Now we cause the ground to tremble. We make a mighty roar. Sign the promised regulations. Carter, stand on 504. We demand the rights of Section 504, 504, 504. We demand the rights of Section 504, and we won't go. No, we won't go. We won't go until we've won.
Whoa, so all of those folks learned that song and
I think they learned the chorus. I'm not sure how much of the verse any of them learned.
I see.
I didn't have the technology to print out the words and so forth.
That must have been such an exciting time.
It was, the one thing I'll say is that I've changed, and I would never again write a song where I refer to a president of the United States by his last name. But that was the urgency of the time.
Right, exactly.
Now, let me tell you about Stephen Klein, then we'll go on to the next thing here. Mary Jane Owen is one of the forgotten demonstrators, but she is in a history book or two. Stephen Klein is not. Stephen Klein had multiple sclerosis, and he went into the demonstration on a support cane. But the harsh living conditions and the lack of good sleep caused him to deteriorate until he couldn't get up. He was laying on a Salvation Army mattress in the back room of one of the offices. He took it upon himself to record all of the media that we were getting, and we got lots of media, especially in San Francisco. So day by day he sat with his cassette recorder recording media. He left the demonstration in a wheelchair, and he died a year later.
Wow.
And I can absolutely say that Stephen Klein died because of 504.
And how old was he?
I'm going to guess 30, maybe?
Young person.
Young man, yeah. Mm-hmm. But the stresses exacerbated his disability. So in this time of, we go through every year, 1 month after another, which is we think of some cause or some human group. But during the month of April, always remember that we are today, with all of the access provisions that exist in this fabulous country of ours, because of a group of 125 people. I was not one of them. I was a supporter. I was the musician in the Troubadour, but I didn't live there. I was there a few nights. But those heroes truly deserve our memory.
So, for some people might not know what you mean by access.
Well, access is everything from both physical and attitudinal barriers. So, for example, we're all familiar with curb cuts, widened bathroom stalls. Imagine being in a public building and not being able to go to the bathroom, or having to be carried up a flight of stairs. How frightening that would be. Or not being able to get into a room because it isn't wide enough at the door. So access is all of that, plus things that are not yet accessibility because of our priorities and how the law went. We'll talk about that when we talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act in July.
I see.
Yeah, but access, it's overcoming both physical and attitudinal barriers. Anything that limits another person from inclusion, being in your circle, being at the table, being in the room, being hired, being educated, being included, all of it.
Thank you for making that clear.
Well, thanks for the question. And next we're going to talk about the climate crisis.
Climate crisis. And you see climate crisis on a slide.
You can't be alive at this time in history and not understand that we are in a climate crisis. I've been aware of that, of course, for many years, and we talked about this the last show. But we have a new addition, a wonderful new addition to our efforts to, again, the urgency of the problem. And that is the producer for this show, Bill Mallon, and one of the associate producers, Susan Bordeaux, have put together a media, what do you call them? Music video.
Yeah, it's visuals of the different types of crises that Earth is experiencing right now.
As far as accessibility to this, what the pictures do is model after the words. So those of you with visual disabilities, just imagine seeing what the song conveys. And now, the new, amazing climate crisis music video.
More hurricanes are storming, more funnel clouds are forming, hailstones grow larger every year. Ocean water rises, wetlands are in crisis, flood waters are rising very near. We can change it if we will. We must change it. Wildfires spread, forest trees are dead, summers grow hotter every year. Snow is falling deeper, Mercury's plunges steeper. Nothing can stop it now, I fear. We can change it if we will. We must change it. Cold keeps getting colder, winter storms are bolder, ice is quickly melting at the poles. Planet's heat is searing, species disappearing. There is nothing I can do now, I suppose. We can change it if we will. We must change it. We must change it. We must change it.
I know you had a lot of fun making that song, and we're so glad that we have the visuals to go with it now.
Yeah, we're a visual world, and for those of us without vision, we certainly love audio description, and that song describes itself.
Sit back. I think our guest here.
Oh. Well, excellent.
We're getting ready for Educator's Corner. So, yes, we have our beautiful guest on the screen now.
Well, excellent. Margarita Elizondo. Let me introduce Margarita. All of us who live with disabilities are educators. It just comes with the territory. You spend your life teaching other people about your disability, and if you have a consciousness about it, you put that to a matter of consequence where the rubber really meets the road. I was aware of our next guest, Margarita, when she became Miss Wheelchair California many years ago. And then I learned much more about her. And I'd like to introduce you now to our friend, Margarita Elizondo. How are you, Margarita?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me to your show. It's been an honor to get to know you as well. Wow, I mean, we've been friends now since 2013, maybe a little bit sooner than that. And just following each other's growth has been really, really an honor.
Thank you, and same to you. Margarita, why don't you tell your story? You have one of the more remarkable stories.
Yeah, thank you. So in 2006, I was a single mother of 3 and 7 months pregnant when a man broke into my home and shot me in the neck. Unfortunately, as a result, my unborn child did not survive. However, he did save my life, because had I not been pregnant, I wouldn't have survived. I had so much blood loss that I am actually partially visually impaired. I have neuroptic nerve damage. And what that means is I only have peripheral vision in my left eye and diminished vision in both eyes. Aside from my visual impairment, I was left paralyzed from my chest line down. And originally I was told that I would be dependent on a breathing machine for the rest of my life, that I would have no mobility from my neckline down, and that I wasn't going to be able to speak. But thankfully, I do speak, and I use my voice to advocate for the disability community and share about my faith, and just share with people that disability is very natural. It's a part of life, and we all face struggles. Adversity is something that doesn't break you down. In fact, it makes you stronger. It makes you wiser, more empathetic. And that's what this show is about, is to share with people that differences are okay. And just because you're different and you stand out, you can use that actually to empower others and to share that being different is okay.
Well, Margarita, I haven't had the chance to meet you in person yet, but one of the fun things of being Jeff's wife is I get to meet a lot of wonderful people like you. And I did read about you as you were a dancer, and it was something that you were determined to continue. Is that correct?
Yes. So before my injury, I loved to dance. And as a teenager in high school, and being Mexican, one of our traditions is quinceañeras, and that's where my choreography started. I started teaching ballroom dance when I was very young, and a little bit of salsa, merengue, Latin. When I got hurt, I thought I was never going to dance again. And part of physical therapy was, and just social engagement, and to try and, uplift my spirits. Back then, we used to use the Walkmans, and my sister brought me a Walkman with my favorite music to listen to while I laid in bed, and I cried. I would move the Walkman to the side because I couldn't listen to music. It was too painful. I thought for sure that was no longer going to be a part of my life. But I was so blessed to meet Beverly Wording, who is the founder of San Diego Wheelchair Dancers. And that's where I was formally introduced into wheelchair dance. And this amazing nonprofit still offers free dance to the community in San Diego. And they teach ballroom dance and Latin dance. And now they're doing Bali and Dance It Out, which is dance therapy. And that's what dance was for me. Through dance, I gained so much mobility, so much confidence, and so much fun, the joy in doing it. Later, I met a wonderful choreographer named Tammy Weber, based in Los Angeles, through a wonderful dancer named Donna Russo. And I started learning about lyrical dance. And lyrical dance is telling stories through your dance. And that brought me a lot of spiritual healing more than anything else. And it was another form of sharing my personal testimony and sharing my feelings and thoughts. And it's very theatrical, very emotional. And it's been a blessing to heal through that as well.
I know that the video that we can't see what's going on with the broadcast, but I imagine that the video is running now. And I believe that you're wearing butterfly wings. Was that something that you selected as a concept of transformation?
Absolutely. I've embraced the butterfly wings, and I've been called Butterfly ever since. And it's something that I've even incorporated in my branding. But I love the way the wings, when they expand, and I can use them as a prop, and the significance, the struggle that a butterfly goes through is kind of how I felt as in my cocoon, in my hospital bed with this huge, I wore a halo for about 4 or 5 months. And that was my cocoon. It was heavy, it was ugly, it made me feel like a monster. But once I broke out of that cocoon, that's really what those wings represent, is the beauty in adversity and the beauty in the struggle. And the fact that despite the wheelchair, despite the limitations, there's so much in life that's beautiful and so much to still live for and strive for and embrace. And I've learned to embrace my wheelchair, embrace my disability, and share with others that beauty comes in different forms, different colors, different abilities, different backgrounds, different beliefs, and all of them are okay. All of them are okay.
Well, I know that you're the word I think is a polymath. You're a woman with excellence in many areas. And another area that you are so successful in is as a children's author. Would you tell us about your books?
Yes. So when I first started speaking, it started in schools and in church. And it started at an event called Ability Awareness. And as I was learning to share with children about myself and about my disability and how I do things, these kids are so curious, and a lot of the questions that kids have are the same questions that adults have. And so I found myself answering the same questions over and over again and trying to figure out how to present to these kids so that they could understand. At the same time, my grandchildren, who are my inspiration, are also learning about disability and disability etiquette, and that being different is okay. And so I dedicated each book to each one of my grandchildren. The first one is called I Really Need to Pee. And
I really need to pee.
yeah, so I Really Need to Pee teaches children about the accessible bathroom stall. Who it's for, why it's made so big, how to identify one, and the importance of reserving the stall for people who actually need it. And so it's called Everywhere I Go. I Really Need to Pee. And the second one is Everywhere I Go, I See Stairs. And this one is about perceptual and physical barriers. So it teaches kids about how to help someone if there is an obstruction, like a chair's in their way, or also if someone is staring, how to address that, the importance of just saying hello instead of staring, teaching parents as well that it's okay for kids to be curious and ask questions. But these books also teach people with disabilities that all of these opportunities when someone is staring or someone wants to help, it's an educational moment. Like Jeff shared earlier, instead of being upset that a child is staring or an adult wants to help you, teach them how to meet your needs and teach them that it's okay to engage you and learn about you. And our nonprofit is all about engagement, education, and empowerment.
You do so many things. We were talking earlier about your work taking donated medical equipment into Mexico for those in poverty with disabilities in our neighboring country to the south. We're so close to the border here. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So it all started back two years ago when Mexico had that huge earthquake. And there was a big need, not just down south, but right across the border, because a lot of the resources were now shifting down south. And so our local borders found themselves in real need. And so we partnered with a couple of nonprofits right across the border and started offering medical equipment and supplies. And it's a huge blessing, even on this side of the border, because we try as much as possible to share with the donor where their equipment went. And it's a blessing to them. And then oftentimes we find ourselves with an excess of medical supplies. And where do we put them? And we don't want to throw the stuff in the landfills. We can share them with someone who is in need. So it's a blessing on both sides of the border. And we also share with individuals who are in need here in San Diego. So we serve both sides of the border, and we want to keep the landfills clean. We want to bless those that are in need. And we just want to have people, have their needs met. A wheelchair is like legs, and it's just giving people access and opportunities what we're really thriving for with that ministry.
Well, you know what? As an educator myself, I'm going to draw you back to your books. I know you only got to talk about a couple of them. I know you have more books, so please share more books.
Yeah, so actually it's a good segue because the third the third one is about medical equipment. And this one is called Don't Touch. And so, having a power wheelchair is so attractive. There's so many buttons and just so much to touch and be curious about. But it's also very dangerous. And so it teaches adults and kids the importance of respecting our medical equipment as our personal body, and just giving awareness to personal space. And that's what Don't Touch is about. And what I love about all of the books is I try to incorporate my friends in the books as characters. And so each of these books have characters that represent my friends. And this one happens to have my best friend in it, who's Brian McCracken, and he's also in a power wheelchair. I've been blessed to have an awesome illustrator, and she's from overseas. I contracted her from overseas, but she's done an amazing job with the illustration and really capturing my vision, and doing a really great job with the illustration.
And your most recent book is about masks.
Yes, so I wasn't planning on talking about Mask Up today, but Mask Up, so I don't have it in front of me, but Mask Up is key to our times, and it teaches kids a healthy routine during COVID-19, and it talks about ensuring that we wash our hands, wear a mask, use antibacterial wipes and creams, and it's just staying safe and healthy.
Well, Alexandra, tell us how we get these books. As a teacher, I would want to know that.
Absolutely. So all of the books are available on Amazon and Kindle, but we encourage you to order them from our website. You can find the books on our website, rollingwithme.org.
That's easy enough to remember.
Great.
Yeah.
Rolling with Me. I love that.
Thank you.
Rolling with Me. Yeah, I like ideas that, for example, a play that you and I are collaborating on, rewriting for our times, is called How Big Is Your Circle? The same idea. It presents a concept in the title, and that is the final note here with Margarita is she and I are collaborating on the rewriting of the script for How Big Is Your Circle to include today's cyberbullying as the plight of children who are devalued in schools.
Absolutely. I am so excited about this project. That's actually how I was introduced to you back in 2013. And man, to come full circle again, talk about how big is our circle, to come back full circle again and be able to work on this project is so exciting. I can't wait to see it in full flourition and have some really great actors performing all of these characters. And I'm just really, really talking about cyberbullying and school bullying and how important it is to be kind to one another is key. I think kids, I know growing up in my era, it was all about your mama jokes and bullying and thinking that was funny and cute and who was more empowering over the other. Well, today's narrative is all about equity and kindness and inclusion and diversity. And so that's really what we want to bring out in this book and this play, is how important it is to understand that we're all equal, that we all deserve access, and that being different is okay, but bullying is not. And that's one of the things that each of these books have, is a campaign that we came up with. It's called I'm All In, and it teaches kids that it's a swearing in. They promise that they're going to be all inclusive, they're going to be kind to others regardless of background, color, belief, age, ability, that we're all humans and that every life has value.
We're people first.
We're people first.
Yeah. Well, on that happy note, Margarita, when I spoke to you earlier today, I realized that I couldn't stop smiling, and I find myself in the same spot right now. You really uplift. You have a great, lovely energy, and more power to you and all of your wonderful efforts in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're a blessing to me too. I'm like without words when it comes to how honored I am to collaborate with you, Jeff. I really am.
Oh,
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well,
We'll be seeing you again, I'm sure.
We're going to be good. Okay. Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you. You guys have a great rest of the show.
You too. Bye-bye.
The mighty didgeridoo.
Every instrument has an origin story. Every instrument has history, but no instrument can compare to the didgeridoo, which is slated to be between 30,000 and 50,000 years old. It is an instrument that is a ceremonial instrument from Australia that is now played around the world. This is my first didgeridoo. I bought it when I was performing in Australia in 1995. I bought it from an Aboriginal guy who gave me a quick lesson and told me what circular breathing was about. And I picked it up, and being a musician, soon I was playing. But circular breathing, being able to breathe, blow out while you're breathing in. When I work in schools, I tell kids, I practiced an hour the first day, I couldn't do it. After an hour a day for a week, I couldn't do it. The first month, second, third, fourth month, an hour a day. One day, I can do that for a real long time.
Now tell the audience exactly what circular breathing is.
Well, circular breathing, first of all, the didgeridoo is made by the Aboriginals will find a hollow tree branch, a eucalyptus branch. They cut it, knock all the termites and ants out of it that made it hollow, put beeswax on the mouthpiece, and then it's like this. You all can do that. You just contain your mouth, the air in your mouth, and make that sound while you breathe in. So you go. So watch my cheeks. Let's get the bigger didgeridoo.
Okay, the bigger one.
Now this is the standard. This is 4 feet long, and you can make them out of. I'll show you one that we make with children out of PVC pipe.
But
This one is the mighty, the biggie. This was brought back to me from a friend's trip to Australia, Occam Van Claveren, when he was there for the Olympics. It's 5 feet long. You can see the bell is much wider than the other one. And this took me 5 years to learn to play because my assumption was it's bigger, you gotta blow harder. Actually, you blow with less breath. You use all aspects of your vocal path. So the diaphragm, the throat, the mouth, the lips, the tongue. And you can bark like a dog and make it sing. What did Muhammad Ali say? Sing like a, buzz like a bee, and bark like a dog. He didn't say that.
Show them the one that you teach children.
Now this is one that my grandson Scott made. It's out of a piece of PVC pipe, 4 feet long. I think it's called Section 30, standard indoor PVC plumbing pipe with, again, a wax mouthpiece. sounds just as good as the ones made from eucalyptus. And of course, because we don't want to see all the eucalyptus trees lose their branches, they can be made out of plastic. You can see them in stores that look quite like a didgeridoo made from wood that are pure plastic. And a PVC pipe is just as good.
Tell them how you make the mouthpieces.
You take sheets of beeswax and you mold it around, keep pinching it in, and you want it to be as wide as from the corner of your mouth to the middle of your mouth, under your nose, that thing called the frenulum. You want that distance. So when you accomplish that...
How do you manipulate that beeswax?
Well, when it's soft, you can just pinch it and move it. If it dries, you take a hair dryer, or you sit by a fire, which is a preferred method, but if you don't have a campfire nearby, you might have a hair dryer, or hold it gently over a stove, or over an electric heater. But warm the beeswax and it will soften.
So tell us about who plays the didgeridoo in Australia. How did that all happen?
You know, you are such a good interlocutor, the word is. Yes, Christy really keeps me on track and draws out the information that we need to share. Initially, the didgeridoo was played only by initiated men. It was part of the Aboriginal culture that men, to be initiated into manhood, had to create a didgeridoo and learn to play it. The didgeridoo would be made, as I said, and then decorated using pointillist dot painting so that the band would put on the didgeridoo their totem animal, or the animal that gives them spiritual strength. And after the fire, after the initiation, after one played the didgeridoo one time, they were buried. So it was considered a sacred instrument, and it never was played in the community. But today, those barriers have gone down. Men and women play them, and they're sold. It's probably, I would guess, the most popular gift takeaway from Australia. And of course, for most people, it sits on the shelf. But it's easy. It really is an easy instrument to learn to play. So get a piece of PVC pipe and some beeswax. If you have any questions, email me through my website. I'll be glad to help you. It's a wonderful instrument, very meditative.
I can't remember. Did you say how old this instrument is?
Well, they estimate between 30,000 and 50,000 years old.
Unbelievable.
So if you consider the Great Lakes are 12,500 years old, 4 times as old as the Great Lakes. Staggering.
Yes.
Okay, the mighty didgeridoo.
Send us your music.
On the last show, we shared the Texas family singing We're People First. Today we have something altogether original. I'm fortunate enough to be collaborating with a theater company in Akron, Ohio called Theater on the Spectrum, formed by a couple drama coaches, understanding that kids who have autism were cut out of theater. And it's a wonderful theater, is a wonderful tool for self-expression, confidence building, community building. Well, as part of their regular exercise to warm up as a theater company, especially in these days of COVID, they worked out the next thing you're going to see, which is We're People First, acted out by our friends in Akron, Ohio, Theater on the Spectrum.
You are looking at our Zoom theater space. On screen are 7 members of Theater on the Spectrum. From top to bottom, starting in the top left-hand corner, J.T. Stiles is an African-American gentleman. He is wearing glasses. He has dark hair and a beard. In the middle is company director Wendy Duke. She is a senior citizen with gray hair. She has glasses and she's wearing a purple shirt. To her right is Amanda Buginski, a young woman wearing glasses with short brown hair and a red shirt. Second row from left to right, Sid Krantz is wearing glasses and a gray shirt. He has brown hair and a beard. In the middle is Reuben Ryan. He is the company co-director. He is wearing a plaid shirt. He has long brown hair and long brown mutton chops. To his right is Samir Hamoud. He has dark hair and he is wearing a dark shirt. In the bottom row is Jake Dietz in the center. He has brown hair and a beard and he is wearing a white shirt. Today we'd like to share one of our absolute favorite warm-ups, even though we are recording this on Zoom and not actually with you live. We think it is very important that all of you watching this should have the opportunity to get up and dance and move with us to a very special song written by disability rights advocate and musician Jeff Moyer. This song is called We're People First. And here we go.
We're male, female, but we're people first. We're dark, we're pale, and we're people first. We're people, just people, people living our lives. We're people, just people, and we're glad to be alive. We walk, we wheel, but we're people first. We think, we feel, and we're people first. We're people, just people, people living our lives. We're people, just people, and we're glad to be alive. Well, we're deaf, and we hear, but we're people first. Now we're brave, and we fear, and we're people first. You and me, we're people, just people, people living our lives. We're people, just people, and we're glad to be alive. Now we're blind, and we see, but we're people first. With our own dignity, and we're people first. Round the world, we're people, just people, people living our lives. We're people, just people, and we're glad to be alive. We're fast, we're slow, but we're people first. We stop, we go, and we're people. Everyone, we're people, just people, people living our lives. We're people, just people, and we're glad to be alive. Yes, we're glad to be, yes, we're glad to be alive.
Wow, wasn't that great? I remember when we were with them a few years ago, and we're going to be visiting them again, aren't we, Jeff, when we get on our road trip?
Yes, this coming summer, fall, we'll be broadcasting from the road.
And we'll be interviewing Wendy, I hope.
We will. We planned it. She's going to be one of our guests.
That is so fantastic. I can't wait till that happens. Well, you know what? It's about time to wrap up.
We've wrapped it, haven't we?
Yep.
Well, next, please join us again. Tell your friends and tell your mother, because next show in 2 weeks on May 8th, day before Mother's Day, our guest is going to be Diana Pastora Carson, who you met on show 1 when she was our first call-in, and we're going to be interviewing her at depth about her work in the world and her life with her brother Juan.
Not Juan.
Joaquin. I'm sorry, Joaquin.
That's okay.
And I'm going to be reading from Grit, my memoir.
Move your fingers, Howard.
Yep.
There we go.
I'm going to be reading Madcap Mom, which is an essay about my mother, Louise Smith Moyer, who passed away in 1995, about how she handled adversity, living effectively with a son with a severe cognitive disability who had been institutionalized, and the great suffering she endured in many regards. I'll talk about my mom. And please, make it a family event. Sit down with your mother. If your mother is in a supported living facility, tell them to turn on YouTube and check out the Jeff Moyer Show instead of the sales. It's such a joy again to be with you and share the many ideas that we've brought to bear. And remember that, as we've talked about, the world in its diversity is made up of a range of people, some of whom we have yet to contact. So find a way to engage people who you ordinarily wouldn't, because only then, as humanity, can we all find peace, sweet peace.